and even a kindergartner is able to say that a lot of times, like, you took the toy from me and I'd like to, have it be more friendly and shared. So a little bit harder, but we still want to try to, even if it's a kindergartner, try to get kind of their input and what they're thinking. But definitely have to modify it. So here's the skill streaming steps that Bailey definitely followed. So 9 steps, so defining the skill, modeling the skill, really establishing that need, selecting the role player, setting up the role play, conducting it, providing feedback, assigning skill homework, and then having that next play, selecting the next person to engage in that role play. So the role play can be really something that's pretty powerful. Actually doing it and pretending that you're doing those skills, you're going to get a little bit more generalization out there when they leave your office. Rules for role play, like these are all kind of right in skill streaming, that you build these in and you go over the expectations, before you even start, and go through all those skills and demonstrate those skills, that kind of thing. Social stories are really good because it really does kind of help lower some anxiety, provides that model of social interaction, social behavior. Again, it's more towards those kids with low language and low joint attention. Social stories can be really powerful. And it really is something that everyone can access. You can have a pretty significant disability, but using social stories, you still can access social emotional learning. And it can be generalized, it can be sent home, to use at home, and that type of thing. So when you say a social story, it's something that, is really a story that's teaching that skill. Right? So I'm not going to read this whole social story, but that's really hard to say, that social story, over and over and over again. But this is about, raising your hand. You can break it down, into really something that's pretty simple like this, where I get confused about my work. I need to ask a question. In class, I should ask my teachers the questions I have. It's respectful to raise my hand, and you can kind of start breaking it down into those kind of task analysis of what they should do, pairing that with pictures, and you can really break it down even further to something like this, which is even more simple. So you can kind of see, that this is something that is a little more complex. Right? There's a lot of words on the page. You can make it simpler, same social story, but make it a little bit simpler for kids that need that broken down more. And then you can even break it down further for those kids that need even more. And you can even break it down, where it's just pictures and a couple words. So this is kind of what we're expecting. Staying on topic. So really pictures, some words, and you can really go over this and over it and over it. So I think this link still works, but the PBIS world has lots and lots of social stories on it. So you can find these really on the internet. If you're Googling social stories, anyone try the link? Does it work?
No, it's just those are the egg boys that we use at my placement, and I love the egg boys.
Yeah.
They're on a lot of the cards. And I love that. I love the egg boys.
You can try that link. They do look pretty cute. So you can really look for social stories and use those when you're working with kids with significant disabilities, or when you work with kids that are younger. These are going to be much more in line with kind of that social emotional learning. Scripting is something that also can be really helpful for kids. So giving kids the script. They don't all know like what to say and how to say it. So, if you want to get someone's attention, you can say "What's up?" and we practice those scripts. Having like a starter for a social interaction. Like some kids need those scripts to be able to have those social interactions. So scripts can be good with social scripts. Way too many S's and all this. The social scripts, and then kind of fading that as they get more and more comfortable. You're able to fade those scripts, and they're going to be able, hopefully, to do that more and more independently as you teach them how to engage in those social interactions. Questions about social emotional learning? So all those things can be really helpful. So kind of pick what you have access to, and depending on the group that you have. We're going to do a social emotional learning lesson at the end, right after check and check out. We're all going to learn good social emotional skills today. Okay. All right. Check and check out. Who's seen, heard, done check and check out? Everyone? Everyone? Good. So tell me about check and check out.
Student can come into the office, can be something brief, just hey, how you doing? Great day, okay, goodbye. And it can be something a little bit longer, just going over, I don't know, what their to-do list was. So like, oh, I did this and this and this throughout the day, I can receive this report, but depending on this setup.
Okay. Anyone else want to add to that? Any additional pieces?
Now I'm thinking this might not be the real intervention, but I've seen it, they call it this, but they fill out like a Google form at the beginning and the end of the day saying how they feel to track data and also to make sure if someone walks in it's like in crisis, they like grab them.
Okay.
But I think it's more for like between classes for like those older students.
And I could put it on time hour when needed, so if they're filling more items in the morning coming to school, you can do the check-in and then kind of alleviate some of the stressors and then send them to the class ready to run.
What Larian does is every kid who gets check and check out has a designated staff in the building, and it's not one of their everyday teachers. So it could be the nurse or like a fourth grader that is a sixth grade teacher. And they go see them every morning, they check in, they get their sheet, they go through each of their day, every class period, whatever, depends on the student, like their grade and everything. But for each for their day, then the teacher like gives them a score for like how well they did reaching their goals, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And then at the end of the day, they go back to their person and check out and show them their paper, tell them how good they did that day, whatnot. And then we keep the data and they can work towards getting whatever reward they have.
So I think we put it all together with all 15 nerd input. We kind of put it all together on what check and check out is. The research-based name is a behavior educational program. So we call it check and check out, but it's actually in research and where it started from, it was called the behavior education program. So the PEP, I don't know if they shortened it that way, but we all call it check and check out. Some people call it Chico, I don't know. I suppose you could call it that too. It doesn't really matter what you call it. There's some essential components, and it really is highly effective and kind of low cost and low time required to implement it. That you have decrease in problem behavior when you implement it for a high percentage of students, and you get increased academic engagement as well. So as kind of a side effect, you get better achievement and you get better academics. And a lot of times it relates directly to the function of behavior. So when we talk about problem solving, way back when we talked about that process of problem identification, hypothesis development, intervention development, and then response intervention, that's the problem solving model. And I mentioned, if you remember, I mentioned that there's another way to do it, and that's the standard protocol method of problem solving. So kid comes to your attention, you apply it. You apply the intervention. Doesn't matter what it is, you're going to apply the intervention. It's a standard protocol. This is what we do. If we see that doesn't work, then we add more layers and more layers. And a lot of people do use check in, check out as kind of that first defense, that first kind of protocol that you apply to any type of behavioral related problem. The problem with that is that it's not function based. Okay, so not all kids are going to respond to check in, check out. So if you're trying to avoid attention as a function, check in, check out is not going to work so well because you're actually putting more attention on the student. Right? So it does. So when it does relate directly to the function, which does cover a lot of the functions of our behaviors that we have in school, it's just not all of them. And so a lot of our students, are trying to get attention. A lot of our students are trying to get a tangible type thing. It also really checks off the boxes of effective intervention, like feedback. Giving feedback. It's all about feedback, really. Having good relationships, it helps that as well. So a lot of the kids that we do have in our buildings, they do respond to check in, check out pretty well. And there's lots of research. There's research, this goes back, it's been in existence quite a long time. So it works for elementary school students, it works for middle school, it works for students in urban settings, it works with students with disabilities. There's lots of research that says that it does reduce problem behavior and it increases engagement. So it's really a good bang for your buck when you talk about an intervention. Overall range of effectiveness ranges from 40% to 70%, meaning somewhere between 40 and 70% of kids that you put on it are going to respond. They're going to see an improvement in their behavior. They're going to see an increase in academic engagement. So when you talk about 40 to 70%, that's a pretty good number, especially because it's really not a ton of time and not really a ton of effort to have someone on check in, check out. More effective with students with attention maintained behaviors, but it really does. It is effective across all functions. Just when it's that escape for attention is probably the one that doesn't fit quite well. So what happens is that students check in with an adult to start each school day. So you check that one off. The check-in should be someone other than their teacher. When it is their teacher, you reduce the effectiveness by about 30%. Weird, right? Like, why would that be? Why is if I'm their teacher and I'm doing check in, check out with them, that is significantly less effective than if it's this other person, the nurse, right? Why is that? Why do you think that works that way?
Be biased. See them all day, every day.
And they're getting feedback already. And if there's negative feedback throughout the day, probably more negative feedback. Great, like that'll be fun, right?
I feel like you also just kind of answered it by saying they're getting feedback already. It's not really like an intervention for the teacher. It's not really like breaking the norm of what you typically do.
Yep. So something different, another person. Yeah.
I was thinking like if the problems surrounding school and instructional stuff, then you might not want to do it with the person that you're having that issue with. It might be good to have trust result outside of instruction.
So all of those are probably good reasons why it goes down in effectiveness. It's sort of like you are paid to be with me and you don't really have a choice, but this person is taking an interest in me, and they don't really have to because they're not my teacher, but they seem to really care and want to talk to me every morning and every afternoon, right? And so even if I don't want to, I'm going to act really happy to see you. Right? So someone that's other than the teacher that's giving them feedback and grades and dealing with their behavior day in and day out. Students receive feedback from their teachers throughout the day. And we usually do that on a daily point sheet or daily report card. Then they check out with the adult at the end of the day. And then there's a home component that we can add in there that they can take it to their parents. And their parents kind of see how many points they had and how they did throughout the day. So this is kind of the cycle. It should be within that problem-solving type of system that we are deciding to put kids on check and check out. So like I said, a lot of the schools are doing kind of a standard protocol approach. They get the referral and they just start them on check and check out. Because what's the harm, right? That's pretty low intensity, low effort, and I can just go ahead and start that. And then it collects data. When we have that daily data, you start to see patterns. You start to see, they're having trouble in encore classes. They're having trouble, in gym. They're having trouble in lunch. I can see this from the daily report card that they do all right in their classes, in their core classes, but they're having trouble in these more unstructured classes. Things like that. So it is a data collection, a means to data collection as well. We try to have kids on it for 9 weeks because anytime you do an intervention, you need to give it some time to work. And a lot of times there's an extinction burst. And you learned about an extinction burst when you're talking about changing behavior, that it gets worse before it gets better. So that is usually kind of what happens. It goes up and then it goes down. So the suggestion is that you do it at least for 9 weeks. This process and collect the data, and what's the payoff? Like, what's the goal, and what happens when they reach that goal? High level of availability. I can put literally any student on check and check out pretty easily, and I can start it tomorrow if I want to. It is positive. And we have to stress this, the positive behavior support system. It's positive. You're not taking away points to punish. You really are earning points and giving points. So we really do need to keep it as a positive system. And it is by student choice. So what happens if a student says, I'm not doing that? Carrying this stupid thing around. Right? What happens then?
You have to figure out a different way to try and track it so you can get the stakeholders.
Yeah. So if you're interested in getting the data, making sure they find a way around that. But ultimately, we can't force a student to carry it around. We can't force a student to check in and out with you. So it is kind of some limitation in that regard. But overall, most kids, their classmates will be like, if I be bad, can I get one of those too? And it's like, no, You can't. Like, don't misbehave just to get a check-in, check-out sheet. But you'll run into that. It's also built in that communication with families, if they see how many points their student earned that day. It really helps building and maintaining relationships. You get that continuous monitoring and feedback. And at some point, what we want is that we want to have the student be able to kind of rate themselves. Okay, we want to be able to fade this. This is the part that a lot of people miss, is that check in, check out, they started really reaching their goal, so we can just end it. So you don't have to do that. You can fade it so the student starts monitoring their own behavior. Self-monitoring is a pretty powerful intervention in itself. And you can have checks, like, student circles are, I got two, and periodically the teacher goes over and says, what did you rate yourself for an ELA today? And okay, I agree. I think you got 2s for all those categories. Did you really get a 2 or did you get a 1? That's a discussion point to have with the student. So you can fade it to have the self-monitoring of their daily points. This is something that you have to recruit people to do. You have to have a system in place and kind of recruit volunteers. We need facilitators. Like, who would like to be a facilitator? Maybe the system says everybody is a facilitator, and at some point we're going to call on you, and the expectation is that you're going to do check in, check out for a couple of kids in the other homeroom. Whatever way you facilitate recruiting facilitators, however you recruit them is a discussion for your building, and you really do need to put the word out and ask for those people to take that extra time. We ask staff to commit to 5. 5 students at the most. You can't be the facilitator for more than 5 students. This is not practical. You don't have time to do that. So 5 maximum, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, and then 5 minutes each class period as the teacher's giving the feedback. Okay, so we kind of ask staff to commit to 5, and that's really about it. Student responsibilities, check in. They have to check out. They have to give the form to the teachers at least at the end of the period, and they have to behave. They have to follow those expectations, and then we ask them to take it home to share also with their parent. The teacher has to get the form. They have to monitor the behavior. They need to mark the daily report card accurately, like 2, 1, 0, or 1, 2, 3, however you set it up. You really have to mark that accurately to get that feedback. And the feedback should be positive and that should be constructive. Today I'm giving you a 1. Next period, I really need you to stay in your seat more, and I'm sure you're going to have a 2 for that next period. So really having that corrective and positive feedback. Home responsibilities is to review it, provide feedback to their child, and communicate with school successes and concerns. And so you have that daily point goal. Most of the time it's just 80%. That's kind of where we start. But depending on the student, you can adjust that up or down. Reinforcing for daily check-in and check-outs, and then reinforcing for meeting their daily goal. What happens a lot of times is that kids satiate on their goals, right? Especially kids with ADHD. They're like, no, I'm not really interested in working towards that piece of candy or Takis. Takis is a good one. I'm really not interested in working towards Takis. these anymore. It's way easier just to misbehave and be out of my seat. So in order to really counter that, a lot of times we do a reinforcement menu. So what are you going to work for today? What's on the list? And then we can have also this kind of increasing level of reinforcement as well. What we tend to do is, if you meet your goal 2 days in a row, then you get something a little bit bigger. You can pick a Capri Sun or granola bar. If you get 3 days in a row, you can have some time with peers or passing gum, whatever. It really depends on what the team comes up with. If you have 5 days in a row, you could have popcorn with a friend, or spend some time with a teacher. 10 days in a row, I used to do 10 days in a row, and I would go buy McDonald's. Like, you get a Happy Meal, right? And so I would run out and grab McDonald's if the student got 10 days in a row meeting the goal. So, having this kind of outline for students is really, really helpful. And then having that daily incentive of, what am I working towards today, and having that reinforcement kind of menu that what do you want to choose can make this work even better. So they're not going to get bored with just the same old thing, that they kind of get to pick depending on the day. When you go out to a restaurant, do you order the same thing? I do a lot of times. Sometimes you might be in the mood for chicken instead of steak, right? So same type of thing, that having that kind of menu of things that they can work towards can be really helpful. We have to do some training. So we have to make sure that the teachers know how to do this. We need to make sure that the facilitators know how to do this. We need to make sure that the students know how to do this, and that the parents also understand what's going on and their expectations.
For homework, we're going to start out. Thanks for being on time. What's up? Okay. Listen, let's have a great day today. Yesterday, you had a few thoughts following directions and talking after doing that now. Let's work on that, all right? Okay. All right, thanks. Okay, let's check your homework before we start our session today.
At the end of the period, or during natural transitions in elementary school, the teacher gives the student feedback on the DPR. Feedback should be quick, specific, and corrective if there are things students need to work on. But overall, positive and encouraging.
Great job. Let's look at this. All right. You know what? You're getting your work completed and following directions. I'm going to go ahead and give you a 2 for that. All right. And you know what? You were here on time. And you were ready to work. You get 2 for that. However, during the period, you made a couple of crude comments to Haley. And that wasn't very respectful. So I'm only going to give you 1 for that one. I know they're rude. She just pissed me off. All right. Well, listen, you know what? I know you can do better tomorrow. All right? Thanks, man.
It's important to provide specific feedback on why the student received the score he or she did on the DPR. Here is a negative example of how to provide corrective feedback. Here. It is the specific feedback on whether they met expectations or not, along with reinforcement for following and demonstrating the expectations that will lead to changes in behavior. Remember, the BEP is a positive behavior support system rather than a punishment system. Students should receive lower scores on their DPR if they are engaging in inappropriate behavior, but the DPR should not be used as a venting tool for teachers.
Questions about that? So that happens, like teachers aren't giving feedback, or what you'll see also is that you'll check in on their daily report card and nothing has been filled out, and they'll fill it out all at the end of the day. It's not how this works. Like, there's something wrong. We need to go back to the teacher and make sure that they're giving that feedback after every period. So younger kids, what we do is we modify this and we do 2 checkouts. So we do a check-in in the morning and like the midday, we do a checkout and they can earn something for that time. And then we go ahead and have the afternoon points and they do an afternoon checkout. So because what we found is that kindergartners and even sometimes first graders, like they don't see the end of the day. Right? The end of the day is out there somewhere, but they don't really understand that, like how long that is and how far away that is. And so when you're doing like a midday check-in, check-out really, like, oh, how did your morning go? You got 80% of your 10 circles or whatever. You earned your morning incentive, so keep working hard for the afternoon. So younger kids, it kind of works a little bit better. We found having that broken up a little bit, right? But the non-example happens where there's like whatever. It's really the power is that external adult, and the power is in giving the feedback. The feedback is what's really the most important. So what happens when we have challenges? What happens when kids struggle with this? Students unmotivated, really assess for preferences. We had a student that, we tried this, they weren't making their points, and we're just like, what is going on? Like, most kids are successful. We thought she would be successful, and she just wasn't. She didn't really seem bought into the program, and just wasn't making her goals. So we did a course choice reinforcement survey, and we found out that she just wanted to spend time with her teacher. She just wanted a mom. Right? That's what we boiled it down to. It's she just wants a mom. And and she wasn't really getting that. It was all about earn those Takis or earn that piece of chocolate or all these tangible things. Well, some kids don't want tangible things. They want attention. They want adult attention. So when we did the forced choice reinforcement survey, and we assessed her preferences, we found that she wanted that adult attention. So we built that into as an incentive. And then she started making progress. So assessing for preferences and what is actually reinforcing can be really helpful. Student forgets the sheet, give them another one. It's as simple as that. I lost it. Oh, here's another one. Having them available and accessible is important. Is there anything I can do to help with that? Can I put it in a folder? Is there any way to really support that student? But ultimately, give them another sheet. Right? As simple as that. Parents are uninvolved. Reconsider involvement. Right? If you're gonna send it home and ask for it to come back with a signature, and it doesn't, then don't bother with it. Certainly don't penalize the student for not getting their parent's signature. But you might have to reconsider that entire parent home component of that system. You can call the parents and you can continue to support, trying it, but ultimately, that's not what is the power in the intervention. The parent, that home connection is not what makes this intervention work. So you might just have to get rid of that whole piece. Teachers not participating. Bless you. Meeting with the team, reviewing data, really getting them to commit to doing what we said we're going to do, retrain them, and ultimately they might need an administrator to say, you have to do your job. So that's boils down to that. You have to do your job, and maybe it's the principal that has to go ahead and say that. Okay. Questions about check in, check out? Fairly easy. Who's heard of second step? A couple of you. So second step is a really good social emotional learning platform. We have been using it for the younger grades for a long time. In fact, one of my coworkers said, like, when I first came here 15 years ago, I was the one who was implementing second step when we had the books and the posters and the puppets and things like that. Now there's a digital platform. So skill streaming, social stories. Second step is also a really good platform for social emotional learning if your district has it. Just to kind of show you really quick, like this is it's broken down to kindergarten through 5th grade, 6th through 8th grade, and then 9th through 12th. But Unit 1 is about mindsets and goals. Unit 2 is about bullying and harassment, thoughts, emotions, decisions, and then Unit 4 is relationships and social conflict. And the nice thing about this is that you can preview it, but then when you go to teach it to a class, you hit teach and it tracks that. So I mentioned like none of those teachers opened up the bullying stuff. I can tell when teachers actually hit teach and supposedly going through the lesson. So hopefully they will go through the lesson, but I can tell if they taught it when they hit that teach piece. But I'll show you really quick. This is not the one we're going to go through. But I'll just kind of show you what is involved in the second step really quick. So this is really something that is pretty easy, right? It's a lesson and you have a warm-up, think and share type of activity. You're able to turn and minor conflicts, major conflicts, have those definitions. Why do conflicts escalate? Partner activities, etc. So it's really just going through, and again, that role playing and those examples are kind of built into this type of thing. And then kind of writing about conflict and about the lesson to wrap things up. So second step is out there, pretty well researched. Who's heard of Nearpod? Anyone? We're going to do Nearpod. What should we do? Solving problems. Active listen. How about we do active listening? Do active listening.
I guess we'll find out in a minute. But is Nearpod when it's like connected, like your computer is connected to like all the rest of the students, like iPads?
So there's 2 ways to do Nearpod, and one of them is self-paced. So you can push out a Nearpod and say, here, do this, and every student does their own, and it kind of goes at your own pace. The other way is teacher-led. It's that you hit start, and all kids are going to connect to it. So you see that right here. Live participation and student-paced. So those are the options for Nearpod. And by the way, Nearpod is, you're going to find this in schools for academics. So if I go into the library, you're going to see social studies, you're going to see like ELA type stuff. Like there's a lot of the resource library is about academics and curriculum. So it's used by a lot of teachers in your buildings. So when you go into practicum next time, ask if they have Nearpod. Because there's a whole social emotional learning section that people don't know about. That there's something like 200 and some lessons in here. And people don't use it because they go on to teach social studies or global history or whatever, or science or something, but they don't understand, they don't see or know about that there's a whole social emotional learning section. So a lot of the schools actually have this to utilize. So we're going to do live participation. So I want you to go to nearpod.com and type in this code. Is it join.nearpod.com? Everybody's on it? Everybody's on the code. Everybody has the code? So at this point, as facilitating this, I'm the one who's moving it. So does that change your screen too? How about that? Oh, fancy. This activity, it's really, we're going to spend about 15 minutes or so on this activity, and today we're going to learn about how you can use active listening to strengthen your communication skills. You can use a skill to help build your relationships with others and develop empathy and understanding. All right, boys and girls? So the first thing is we're taking a poll. So which is closest to your mood and energy level right now? A, calm and happy. B, calm and sad. C, energetic and happy. D, energetic and frustrated. You're going to click that and hit submit. Be able to do that. So this actually tracks your t-shirt.
What the heck? You just
I mean, it's okay that we can be. I did. But I wanted to show you what it gave you.
Dan,
Do you use this for academic stuff too, or just okay? Because I think I did see this.
Yeah. So I'm on the student side. I was just showing what this. We all can be honest. Like if I did you missed last week.
yeah.
We were very
We were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And we're on our baby Yoda scale. How we're feeling today. We shared a lot.
I heard it was
Sorry that you missed it. So it's okay that I just showed that.
yes, I think it's okay. It doesn't necessarily think of that.
Sorry. So good communication skills are essential for school, work, and life. Active listening is a skill you can use to ensure that other people feel they've been heard and understood. You can share their thoughts and feelings freely. It also helps to avoid conflicts caused by misunderstanding. This is a 6th to 12th grade lesson, so it's much more wordy than if I did the version that was like the pre-K or K to 2. So that's why it's a little bit more wordy. So let's practice. I want you to spend 60 seconds interviewing your partner. So partner up. And there's going to be someone that has 3 people. But partner up. And so we're going to spend 60 seconds. Who's partners? So you 3. So you guys are a group of Kennedy, Jillian, and your group of 3. Okay. So spend 60 seconds or so interviewing your partner. You can just ask any question. Afterwards, then you're going to swap roles and do another 60-second interview. As you interview your partner, try to listen as closely as possible to their responses. And you can really ask them any question that you want.
I'll be done by next week. It looks like salad and green. Yes. Wow. I'm such a good student. I like them.
You would text me earlier. I had to take it
And make sure that you're switching roles to interview the other person.
I thought you did call us sometime. How are you? It's funny to ask
Or like Shannon
so since after.
Sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Group of three.
Yeah, all this
You did that.
and someone makes me
So you're through.
You're wrapping up your conversation. And we're going to come back together. 3, and 2, and 1. Wrap it up. All right. Back to our activity. So, how do you think your 60-second interview went? Think about what you found worked well and what you would do differently next time. And you can type in your response right there and hit submit. You also see that there's a little picture there that you can add a picture to. So you see this is kind of a collaborative board that we all are able to put our answers on. Nice pictures, good pictures there. So you can do that. So again, like interactive, right? Like opportunities to respond. Everyone's able to say what they want to say.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I do.
Are they the same thing as banana peppers?
Doesn't matter. Are they good though?
I'm allergic to banana peppers and not.
Oh, are you allergic to banana peppers and other peppers?
Banana peppers and pepperoncini are both pickled, but they're not the same.
And well, that's all that matters.
You guys are pretty good with all the pictures.
High maintenance.
I like this, like,
You're like,
All right, so we are going to explore active listening a little bit. On the following slides, read some guidelines for active listening. Why do you think each guideline is important for effective communication? Paying attention. acknowledge, clarify, holding judgment. When I click on this, it changes for you too, right?
Yeah.
Reflect and respond.
Oh, mine didn't change.
Well, I'm changing mine. Yeah.
Oh, you can do it yourself. See those there. So everybody went through all of your 4 slides. So think, pair, share. What are some nonverbal ways to communicate what you're that you are actively listening? Take turns sharing with a partner. So what are some nonverbal ways to communicate? So wrap up your think, prepare, share. We're going to come back to our lesson in 3, and 2, and 1. So choose an object in the room to describe your partner without naming it or its purpose. Your partner would draw the object listening to your instructions. Okay, let's swap roles. Did you follow all the instructions? What's your object?
So, okay, so we can separate.
Choose an object in the room. Try to describe it to your partner.
So Grace is drawing the object that describes her.
Nope. So find an object in the room, and you're going to describe it, and then Grace is going to try to draw it from your description.
Right. So I remember that.
She thinks
Can't
it's right.
name it. Can't name it or its purpose. See how good your artistic skills are.
It is blue. A lot of the time, I can't think of any colors.
So they're just like white.
And what object? Okay. White.
It's the size of a shape.
Yeah. It's okay.